I started experimenting with alcohol and drugs, and very slowly, alcohol and drugs will convince you that you can't do anything without it.
Joe Walsh, a rock icon renowned for his ferocious character and thrilling live performances, has just revealed something about which fans have been wondering for a long time. Walsh has now revealed something long hidden at the age of 76, following a career that has been nothing short of a roller coaster. After living a life in the limelight, what could he possibly have to confess? Walsh has kept a stunning secret from everyone, but in this film we reveal it all. A secret that could alter your perceptions of him forever. Stay tuned to find out what Walsh has finally admitted. The truth behind one of rock's biggest mysteries. Joe Walsh, whose real name is Joseph Fiddler Walsh, was born in Wichita, Kansas, on November 20th, 1947. His mother was a classical pianist. Thus, he grew up with music as an integral part of his identity. Following Joe's father's untimely death in an airplane crash when he was just a toddler, his mother and son spent some time on the road before settling down in Montclair, New Jersey. Walsh began his serious musical pursuits and graduated from high school there. He began learning guitar at the young age of 10 and quickly developed a passion for rock music, drawing influences from bands like the Beatles, the Ventures, and others in the genre. Even while he was at school, his profound love for music shone through. Walsh joined the school band at Montclair High School and played the oboe, but his true passion was electric guitar. Walsh was already well established in the Ohio music scene, having played in many bands when he enrolled at Kent State University. He began to consider a career in singing while at Kent State since, in contrast to classroom teaching, performing came more naturally to him. The tragic Kent State shooting in 1970 became a watershed moment in Walsh's formative years. The event was a watershed point in Walsh's life. He was still a student when it happened, and it had a profound effect on him. Life is too brief not to follow one's passions, so he decided to drop out of college and focus entirely on music. But this decision would be the beginning of a great career that would eventually bring him rock star status. After graduating from Kent State, Walsh briefly joined a local band named the James Gang, which brought him further exposure. Both fans and critics were captivated by his electrifying guitar playing and unique style. One of the band's songs, Funk No. 49, demonstrated that Walsh was an exceptionally talented singer and guitarist, solidifying his place in music history. That was the beginning of what would turn out to be one of the most legendary rock and roll journeys of all time. But as Walsh's musical career was beginning to take form, an unexpected turn of events would catapult him into the limelight more quickly than he had anticipated. Joining the Cleveland rock band the James Gang, who were having trouble making it in 1968, was Joe Walsh's big break. The band was on the verge of achieving stardom when he showed up, bringing with him a new energy and sound. As a group, they gained fame thanks to Walsh's innovative guitar playing, which fused elements of rock, blues, and funk. The band quickly gained popularity, and one of their singles, Funk No. 49, showcased Walsh's extraordinary guitar skills and impressive range. The passion and innovation of Walsh's guitar skills propelled the James Gang to even greater heights than its individual parts. He became an industry powerhouse thanks to his innovative riffs and the physical might he displayed on stage. James Gang Rides Again, the band's second album, was financially and critically successful, solidifying the band's position in rock history. Songs like Walk Away and The Bomber further demonstrate Walsh's guitar mastery, which the other musicians rightfully hold in high esteem. The influence of Walsh's brief stint as a member of the James Gang was substantial. The strong rock and blues sound that the band pioneered set the stage for many of the guitar-heavy rock bands of the 70s. Not only did Walsh's innovative sound effects aid in the development of rock music, but he also encouraged other guitarists in the genre to use instruments with a wider spectrum of tones. A brief period of fitting in with the James Gang made Walsh feel too little, and he soon began to look forward to bigger and better opportunities, leaving no room for question that he was a rock star. Walsh, who had been prominent in the James Gang up until this point, decided in 1972 to stop working with the band so he could pursue other musical opportunities. The album was a watershed moment in the group's history and the beginning of a highly successful solo career. His work with the James Gang laid the groundwork for his subsequent endeavors, and his time there is still highly regarded by music lovers. Joe Walsh, on the other hand, was seeking new challenges and a change in sound after leaving the James Gang in 1972. Here, Walsh recruited fellow college student Joe Vitale for drums and Kenny Passarelli for bass guitar to form the band Barnstorm. Barnstorm was more than just a continuation of Walsh's previous work. It was a platform from which the artist could blend rock, folk, jazz, and even Caribbean elements. In 1972, the band published their debut album, Barnstorm. It was a watershed moment in Walsh's career as a musician since he had so much say in the creative aspects of the song and could showcase his abilities as a guitarist and composer. No matter how many positive reviews Barnstorm got, it still failed to gross as much as everyone had hoped. Thanks to the admiration for risk and artistic development, characteristic of Walsh, the record became a treasured piece of art among fans and artists alike. The witty lyrics and guitar skills of Walsh were on display in tracks like Turn to Stone and Mother Says, which ushered in a new chapter in his career. For Walsh, Barnstorm was more than just a band playing music. It was a vehicle for expression and a means of expanding musical horizons. Other musicians, including the Eagles members, were captivated by Walsh's collaboration with the Barnstorm and eventually joined him. A watershed moment came with the band's 1973 sophomore album, The Smoker You Drink, The Player You Get, which featured the smash hit Rocky Mountain Way. Walsh's first major solo hit, and a staple in the musician's set, was this song. The laid-back vibe and slide guitar motif were major turning points in Walsh's career that propelled him to solo stardom. Even though Barnstorm disbanded in 1974, the time he spent there was crucial in determining his current trajectory. He would go on to have even more success in his later years, especially with the Eagles, thanks to the freedom and inventiveness he had when playing with Barnstorm. Even though the band didn't last long, it was just what Walsh needed to reawaken his self-assurance and creative juices for the rest of his career. During this time, he became an expert musician and cemented his position in rock history. Joining the Eagles in 1975, a peak year for Joe Walsh's career, propelled him to the pinnacle of success in the rock music industry of the decade. He joined the band at a pivotal juncture, as Bernie Leadon, one of its founders, had recently resigned, and the band was on the verge of transitioning from a more country rock sound to one that was harder and more guitar-oriented. Walsh was an appropriate pick. His ferocious stage presence, exceptional guitar talents, and sensitivity to nuanced performance styles radically transformed the group dynamic. Not only did the Eagles reach a major milestone, but Walsh also launched himself to immense global renown with this. Walsh didn't become a member of the Eagles until after the release of Hotel California in 1976. The very same album that is widely regarded as one of the best-selling albums of all time. His work on this album is well known, particularly the guitar duet he did with Don Felder on the title track, which is among the most famous guitar solos in rock history. The haunting and complex guitar solo on Hotel California showcased Walsh's talents and solidified his position in the band. For the rest of his life, this was the turning point that would define him. Life in the Fast Lane is one of the many songs that Walsh contributed to the Eagles. He said that the song's inspiration originated from a riff he played during rehearsal. The band's new, more aggressive demeanor, with its edgy sound and rock and roll attitude, was appropriately portrayed. The Eagles were able to move away from their more delicate folk-inclined roots and into a more aggressive rock territory, because to Walsh's forceful, clear, and emphatic guitar work on the song. Both the quality of their music and their ability to reach a wider audience were enhanced by his inclusion in the band. With the Eagles, Walsh plays guitar, But that's not all he does. They became into stadium rock superstars in large part because of his distinctive and daring personality. The closeness of Walsh's relationship with the band, especially with Glenn Frey and Don Henley, inspired them to reach new levels of artistic achievement. Although the Eagles had already achieved some success prior to Walsh's arrival, he catapulted them to even greater heights in the rock music industry. He had his most formative and financially rewarding stage of his career during his final years with the band. Joe Walsh's 1978 album, But Seriously Folks, featured one of his most famous songs, Life's Been Good. The song became a huge hit with listeners for many reasons, including its catchy melody and the fact that it was a humorous and critical take on rock star excesses. In the song, Walsh showed himself and the ridiculous things that come with fame in an honest and funny way. The subject matter was treated with utter sarcasm, which contributed to the song's status as one of Walsh's most successful singles in terms of controller work. Life's Been Good plays on the ironies of rock star life with a touch of humor. Walsh brags about living in expensive houses, wrecking expensive cars, and being so famous that he doesn't even know how much his tickets cost. But underneath all the jokes, there's a sense of isolation and disconnection. Walsh says in a laid-back voice that he's lucky to be alive and admits that everybody is so different. I am the only one that has not changed. The song's flow alternates between mock star culture and an unpretentious critique of fame, reflecting on the effects of fame on the person in a much more complex way. Life's Been Good is a great example of Walsh's style, with his subtle vocals and amazing guitar work. The song has long instrumental breaks, especially on slide guitar, which reveals Walsh's humor and technique. The song's rhythm is lazy and playful, which goes hand in hand with its exaggerated lyrics, creating a song that embraces the best and worst of rock and roll. It's the type of music that invites you into its card house, but it never stops being a card house. After all these years, Life's Been Good is still a staple of rock anthems and a touchstone for rock star lore. Its satirical take on the modern rock and roll lifestyle has struck a chord with modern listeners, elevating the song to classic status. For Walsh, though, these weren't just the words of a guitar legend, though that's certainly what he is. The words became about rock in general. Even while Walsh's rock star hymn seemed lighthearted and carefree on the surface, a deeper and more intimate struggle was taking place. Joe Walsh, like many rock stars, has had his share of battles behind the scenes, including the battle against addiction. Throughout his early career as an electric guitarist, he also battled with alcohol and illegal substances. This was because such dependencies were common among rock and roll culture at the time. Despite the scandalous and pleased image of the performer, the truth is that his addiction had a negative impact on his private life and health. Fortunately, his greatest fame was not characterized by addiction issues, although they were always present, numerous, and at one point even too much. Throughout the interviews, Walsh has opened up about how much of his life, particularly during that time, was consumed by addiction. He acknowledges that back then, rock star culture included some drinking and illegal substances which he readily consumed. His wild partying became legendary, but Walsh was on a downward spiral. He would often black out and was completely out of control, putting his career and personal life at risk. As the years passed and his addiction worsened, his consumption also increased, leading to a decline in his mental and physical health. The turning point came in 1994, when Walsh had an epiphany while flying to Paris. He lost consciousness and didn't know how he got there, but he realized that his life was spiraling out of control. The next step was to resolve to abstain from alcohol, which was extremely difficult for him, but he had to do it as a wake-up call. With the support of loved ones and experts, Walsh got back on his feet and began to put his life back together, but it wasn't easy. He resolved to abstain from alcohol because he felt a strong need to regain control of his life and practice his trade reasonably. Since achieving sobriety, Walsh has been actively involved in recovery activism, sharing his story to help others going through the same struggles. He has publicly acknowledged that his ability to remain sober is crucial to his existence, as it allows him to focus on his music and move forward. Walsh's battle with addiction was about more than just avoiding psychotropic substances. It was also about finding one's identity and finding a way to move forward. Walsh is still an inspiration today, and he reminds us that behind every seemingly perfect existence, there is a fight within. The Eagles were at the height of their popularity at the turn of the 1970s, but tensions were starting to show within the group. The pressures of constant touring and recording, as well as the legacy of albums like Hotel California, were taking their toll on the band members. Joe Walsh was generally able to keep things in perspective, but arch members Don Henley and Glenn Frey's growing animosity meant that Walsh often found himself mediating. The protracted sessions for the band's next album, The Long Run, which had not yet been released, only served to intensify the tensions, leading to their 1980 breakup. The breakup was not amicable because personal relationships and business had become antagonistic some time ago. In Walsh's view, the breakup of the Eagles was an opportunity he was thankful for, even though it did force him to step away from everything else. That was the end of that chapter, but the Eagles' history hadn't ended yet. Hopes of reformation persisted throughout the 80s and 90s, but the walls came tumbling down when country singer Travis Tritt featured the band in the music video for Take It Easy. Even this small appearance sparked talks of reconciliation, and in 1994, after 14 years apart, the Eagles reunited for the Hell Freezes Over tour, named after the old proverb that said the band would only reform when hell froze over. The reunion most certainly merits a jubilant ovation. The Hell Freezes Over tour was a smashing success, drawing in crowds of eager fans who had waited more than a decade to see the band play live again. Walsh's guitar work was as vicious as ever, and he and the rest of the band had rediscovered their chemistry. The tour also yielded a live album, also named Hell Freezes Over, which featured both live performances and 4 new studio tracks. Hits like Get Over It and Love Will Keep Us Alive ensured that the Eagles' 70s craze was far from over. At the same time that the Eagles' reunion was a blessing for the band's accomplishments, it was a blessing for Walsh, at least in terms of his desire to create lasting bonds within the band. The time apart helped the members heal from each other, and when Walsh got sober, he was able to reconnect with his band on a deeper level. The Eagles continued to tour and release new music, proving that their legacy as rock stars was far from sealed. Joe Walsh has been married 5 times, each time symbolizing a different phase of his life and the challenges he has faced. Currently, he is married to Marjorie Bach, the sister of actress Barbara Bach and sister-in-law to Ringo Starr, who has provided him with stability and comfort throughout the years, especially since he has been sober since the mid-90s. Despite his flamboyant image as a rock star, Walsh has always been very sensitive and thoughtful, and this shines through in his music. When Walsh's eldest daughter, Emma, who was just 3 years old at the time, died in a car accident in 1974, it was one of the most devastating tragedies he had ever experienced. The loss of Emma profoundly affected Walsh professionally and personally, and it was in response to this tragedy that he wrote the touching song for Emma for his 1974 album So What. In this song, Walsh revealed his vulnerable side as a father who had lost a daughter, and he has admitted that his drug addiction was a result of this tragedy. In addition to his marital struggles, Walsh also faced challenges in maintaining family relations. The disappearance of his sister-in-law Susan Walsh in 1996 and the subsequent failure to find her remains add another layer of personal trauma to his life. Despite these challenges, Walsh has always found a way to move forward, often channeling his sadness into painting. His talent for transforming tragedy into something creative and meaningful has been a hallmark of his career, enabling fans to relate to him on a more profound emotional level. However, Walsh has found solace in music, his family, and his battles with addiction. His daughter, Lucy, from a previous marriage, has also pursued music and is now a successful musician. Walsh has had rocky relationships with women, but he has learned to fight love instead of giving up. As he celebrates the love and joy he has found in his later years, he thinks about Emma and the others he has lost. Their stories demonstrate the strength and resilience required to overcome adversity. Joe Walsh, apart from having a monumental music career, has also spent a lot of time and energy engaging in various charitable causes and advocacy work, making sure the fame he grabbed as a musician is put to better use in many causes that he is passionate about. Supporting veterans is one of the primary areas of his concentration, and it is a cause that has a lot of meaning to him. In 2017, Walsh launched Vets Aid, which is a 501 nonprofit organization whose goal is to help raise money for veterans and their families. As a tribute to Willie Nelson's Farm Aid, Vets Aid also held benefit concerts with well-known performers and raised millions of dollars to support the organization's services for veterans, mental health treatment, and housing for the veterans. The basis of Walsh's dedication towards veterans can be traced back to the military history of his family, where his father, who was a pilot in the Air Forces of the United States, passed on during active service when Walsh was still a child. Among Walsh's many interests and areas of expertise is a strong commitment to environmental preservation. For many years, he served as president of the Santa Cruz Island Foundation, an organization charged with protecting the island's unique ecosystem, wildlife, and historical sites. As an environmentalist, Walsh saw his work protecting the environment not as a hobby, but as a serious challenge, and he has graciously accepted the challenge, dedicating his time and resources to preserving one of California's natural treasures for future generations. Education, particularly in light of its focus on long-term investments in the arts, is another cause close to Walsh's heart. He has previously assisted in the establishment of scholarship funds at his alma mater, Kent State University, and has even managed to fund a scholarship for students who wish to major in music or the arts. Walsh understands the importance of assisting young people with creative tendencies and has participated in initiatives to make sure that young people, who may feel lost but have a love for music and creativity, have opportunities like the ones he had. His faith in the transformative power of art is closely tied to his passion for education. The charitable pursuits of Walsh are not limited to big establishments. He tends to assist the local ones as well. He's worked in halfway houses for homeless women and has discreetly helped other projects aimed at people suffering from addiction. He himself has had a more than fair share of addiction issues in the past, and that makes Walsh willing to help anyone who is trying to quit, both with money and his life story. His charity work is a testament to his belief in using his platform for good, making a difference in the lives of others far beyond the world of rock and roll. Nevertheless, Walsh has kept concealed something deeper for years, despite all the good he has done and the great songs he has given us. Last but not least, our shared suspicion. Joe Walsh, after years of speculation, has finally addressed a long-suppressed mystery. What truly motivates him, despite the fact that much of it appears to emanate from his rock and roll persona? Walsh, now 76 years old, has spoken the truth that many have suspected, but never fully understood. His extravagant lifestyle and outlandish behavior were the polar opposite of how he felt when he was a musician, an insecure and outcast. Despite all his success, Walsh admits that he occasionally cared about the people around him, even when he was with the Eagles. To the outside world, he seemed like a narcissistic rock star, but deep down, he struggled with insecurities about his abilities and his influence, which made him violent and led to his drug addiction and outbursts. Fans who saw Walsh as a stereotype of the rock and roller lifestyle probably didn't realize that he was secretly struggling with doubts about his own sufficiency. The last realization he had goes beyond just overcoming his demons. As Walsh would later admit, the ironic and comic parts of his songs, like the famous "Life's Been Good," were all an effort to cope with the absurdity of fame and the internal pressures. The apparently carefree rock star song, which many mistook for a reflection of Walsh's own struggles, The dissonance between his rock star image and the issues he had to face in his personal life was actually about his own struggles. By coming clean, Walsh has given fans a clearer picture of him than a rock star. He's a real person who has lived his life, faced challenges like loneliness, insecurity, and a lack of direction in his music. This new side of Walsh further cements his legacy, showing that there was always more to him than his famous guitar riffs and fantastic stories. There's a lot of humanity there. Finally, if you liked this video, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments. If you want to stay updated, subscribe and turn on notifications. While you're here, watch the next video for even more amazing stories. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.